Hi guys, this is one of the weirdest interviews I've ever seen. Milk bottle carrying Tory MP Sir Charles Walker spoke to Channel 4 News about the current state of the Tories and their chances at the next general election. This is a guy who has rebelled in the past against the government, and he's been very outspoken on a number of issues, and his eccentric behaviour has garnered him a bit of a cult following. But what he said here about a potential Labour government could be taken two ways. First, have a listen to what Charles had to say.
I'm always quite keen for Conservatives to hold power and form governments, but I suspect if Labour was being entirely honest, they'd quite like to wait another 2 years before getting into power. I think Keir Starmer and his team will be hoping the outlook is less bleak in 2 years' time, that we are on a path back to recovery, the public finances are in order, inflation is under control, perhaps wages are growing again in real terms. That would be a good thing, I think, for an incoming Labour government. I don't think anybody would choose to be in power right now.
Yes, I mean, they've got a lot of policies to work out. What I suppose I'm getting at is, in the past, you could argue, hand on heart, I'm sure you felt Labour was a threat. It's not really a threat, is it, really, under Keir Starmer for you?
Well, look, I mean, Labour being led by Jeremy Corbyn would be a totally different prospect, and it would definitely keep me awake at night. Keir Starmer doesn't keep me awake at night, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I know Keir Starmer. I think he's perfectly decent, good man. He's patriotic. I still prefer to have a Conservative Prime Minister. Yeah. But if we're going to have a Labour Prime Minister, Keir Starmer strikes me as not a bad option.
Okay, so there are a number of different ways to respond to this. Not a bad option. Now, the people on the left will look at this in horror and say, why the hell are the Tories advocating for Keir Starmer? It means that he's a red Tory. And many people do believe that he's a red Tory, both in England and elsewhere. But I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on why Charles Walker is doing this. He said some interesting things here. He said at the beginning of the interview, he talked about how, you know, it's if the economy turns around, if the situation improves, well, then the Labour Party would inherit something much better. And maybe that's what they want to do. The Labour Party want to wait for another 2 years until things get better, and then they can take over an economy which is in a much better state. It doesn't really work like that. If the situation improves, which I don't think it will, because the OBR has said for the next 2 years, 2023 and 2024, we'll see a decline. It won't be until after that things start to improve somewhat. But if there is a change, if people, and it's all about perception here, if people perceive that the economy is improving, things are getting better, then they're going to vote for the Conservatives. People will vote Labour if they see that things are getting worse. Now, things are getting worse, but it's all about perception, and the media play a huge role here as well. Some things you can hide, some things you can't hide. But I think this is about handing over the Labour Party a poisoned chalice. It's about making sure that the situation, I don't know whether I go as far to say is the Tories are deliberately destroying the economy in order to make it more difficult for the Labour Party to operate. Some of them may be interested in doing that, but I think it's more through neglect and corruption. That's why they're doing it. I don't think it's ideological in the sense that they want to punish the Labour Party. But if the Labour Party take over, it will be extremely difficult. It will be extremely difficult from an economic point of view. They'll have to try and raise taxes. It'd be difficult from a social point of view. Look at the NHS waiting lists. Look at the problems about bringing people in from abroad to fill vacancies. They're going to receive massive pushback. And of course, the huge problem for them when it comes to the media. Boris Johnson could do pretty much what he wanted, and the right-wing media would never criticise him. The criticism slightly increased when Liz Truss took over, and a little bit more when Rishi Sunak took over. But it's nothing compared to what a Labour government would face. Keir Starmer could help businesses and he would be criticised. He would help ordinary people, he would be criticised. So no matter what he he would do, and the Labour Party would do, they would be constantly criticised by the right-wing media. And of course, Tory MPs would be trying to convince people that, get rid of the Labour government, go back to the Tories when times were better. And they will rely on people's memories being extremely short. So I think this is more a case of handing over a poison chalice to the Labour Party, watching them struggle, and then presenting themselves, the Tories presenting themselves as the saviours. Oh, we're going to fix the economy. Whatever bad is happening because Labour are in charge. They're going to raise taxes on ordinary people. Look at what they're doing. They're making it more difficult for business to operate. They're not controlling the borders. They will rely on short memories. And right-wing governments do this all the time. As soon as they're out of power, they're talking about how it was wonderful when they were in power. And it's important that people push back on that. And the right-wing media, of course, will try and use this as well. Bring back Boris. Things were wonderful under Boris. And you have people on the street regurgitating this rubbish. So this was a weird interview. I don't believe Charles Walker for a moment when he says that he doesn't have a problem with Keir Starmer. He's a patriot. He's a good guy. Maybe he says he believes he's a good guy, but from a political point of view, he doesn't want a Labour government. He wants a Conservative government, and he will use whatever tools he can to bring it down. They understand that they're not going to win the next election. So there's no point, in a sense, trying to stop the Labour Party from winning. It's more a case, I believe, of letting them take over, criticising them, and hoping that the public will turn on the Labour Party pretty soon so the Conservatives can get back in again, and hopefully with a massive majority, and just continue the gravy train, continue the corruption, continue this disaster that has been for the public. And I think a general election is going to happen soon. Look at what's happening in the NHS. Look at what's happening in the economy. There's a winter of discontent, strike action all over the place. And it's going to, I think, eventually break the government, because you can't maintain this level of stress in society. I think there's going to be pressure put on Conservative MPs, like what happened with Boris Johnson, and one by one they'll start to rebel against the government, and they'll eventually bring it down. And then I don't think the Tories can just replace Rishi Sunak with somebody like they replace Liz Truss. They'll have to call an election, and it's going to be pretty dirty. But I think at the top level, the Conservatives just want to hand over this poison chalice to the Labour Party and allow them to struggle. But let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.